I'm Phil Mattingly.
And I'm Mark Halprin. And with all due respect to the other Emmy nominees for Best Actor in a Drama, come on, it's Jon Hamm's time. On the show tonight, Hillary, Bernie, and a fill in the blank. But first, someone at a Donald Trump event in Rochester, New Hampshire last night called President Obama a Muslim, and Trump did not correct him.
Okay, this man, I like this guy.
From White Plains. Amen. Okay. We have a problem in this country. It's called Muslims. We know our current president is one. Right. You know he's not even an American.
We need this
Birth
question.
certificates, man. But anyway, we have training camps growing where they want to kill us. Mm-hmm. That's my question. When can we get rid of it?
We're going to be looking at a lot of different things. And, you know, a lot of people are saying that, and a lot of people are saying that bad things are happening out there. We're going to be looking at that and plenty of other things.
So that mysterious questioner, who no one's been able to locate, also said some other offensive things in his question to Trump, which Mr. Trump also didn't address directly. Then there's the story that Trump was not entirely accurate at the debate on Wednesday when he denied Jeb Bush's claim that he tried to get casino gambling passed in the state of Florida. Trump's taken a lot of heat for what happened at the town meeting last night from other candidates. Phil, as we head into the weekend here, can either of these two things bring about what the establishment desperately wants now, the beginning of the end of Donald J. Trump?
Predicting the demise of Donald Trump at any point since June has been kind of a fool's errand or a great way to look stupid on TV or in print. But here's what those two things did. First, it gave the establishment a specific incident when it came to that questioner yesterday that they can point to, kind of making clear what they've been saying behind the scenes for a while now, that these are the types of people Donald Trump is attracting to the campaign. We don't want them there. As for the Bush issue specifically, his campaign has been all over that all day long. It has given them a clean shot to go on offense, something they've really kind of been unable to take advantage of the last couple weeks. So I think these are two key moments. But I do think, Mark, it's the debate, not these moments, that people will turn to if this is the moment where he starts to go down.
Yeah, I think the Florida thing probably Trump has some wiggle room on. This town meeting thing's a problem for him because Trump has avoided taking a position on whether he still believes the president wasn't born in the United States by not correcting the guy saying the president's a Muslim. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's inaccurate, and for some people it would be a negative. I think he's got himself into a bit of a box now because this is going to come up again. Not necessarily the issue of not correcting the guy, but he still has to figure out what he's going to do. Will he admit that he was wrong in being the leader of the birther movement or not? That puts him in a tough political position.
Were you surprised by his campaign's initial response?
This is not an easy situation for them, and they usually don't deal with things head on, so no, I wasn't. All right, yesterday, Hillary Clinton gave her first live interview of this campaign season. Wolf Blitzer of CNN got to do the duty there. Also yesterday, Clinton took questions from voters in Concord, New Hampshire. In both instances, the candidate executed what we call in the political business evasive maneuvers.
What would you say was your #1 accomplishment as Secretary of State?
There's a long list about what I have done, and I'm very proud of it. You can read my book, Hard Choices, read about how I negotiated a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. You can read about how I put together the coalition that led to international sanctions against Iran. You can read about what I did when I was First Lady to get the Children's Health Insurance Program, or a senator working across the aisle on issues like getting better health care for our veterans. You know, this is just a silly season. I am looking forward to eventually debating on that stage, whoever they finally nominate once they get around to doing that.
Keystone Pipeline, one of my favorite issues. Let me just tell you this. I have been waiting for the administration to make a decision. I thought I owed them that. I worked in the administration. I started the process that is supposed to lead to a decision. I can't wait too much longer, and I am putting the White House on notice. I'm going to tell you what I think soon, because I can't wait. I thought they would have it decided way by now, and they haven't.
So, Phil, the new Clinton campaign strategy is to have her do more town halls, more interviews. Based on those two clips, is this strategy working as planned?
Got to give it some time, Mark. You can't break out of kind of the old way of doing things, the shell, all at once. I'll say what has worked this week for them. You flood the zone when it comes to either doing the extra interview with Mario Lopez, the press avails, the CNN interview, the CBS interview on Sunday. You flood the zone against the optics of the Republican debate against the Donald Trump town hall. That's a contrast her campaign loves. It's a contrast they want to have when it's up her against Republicans. They like that. And so I think in that sense, it has been effective, at least in changing the subject of what's been dominating the last couple weeks.
Yep, I agree. I think those two moments we showed aren't great. But overall, Fallon, other stuff, she's taking pressure off of every interview. Wolf's interview got almost no pickup whatsoever because Hillary Clinton interviews now are not these big major events that everybody stops and pays attention to the way they did when they were in shorter supply.
I will say, Mark, that when Josh Earnest today was asked about being put on notice, he basically said, okay, cool, yeah, go ahead, announce your position whenever. So the administration not exactly fearful of being put on notice right now.
All right, set your calendar alerts for the weekend. Today, 10 Republican candidates are in Greenville, South Carolina for an evening event with Heritage Action for America. Tonight also kicks off a GOP cattle call in Michigan. 5 White House Republican hopefuls will speak there over the weekend on TV. Bernie Sanders is doing the Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Tomorrow, the major Democratic presidential candidates will be in Manchester, New Hampshire for the state party convention. Republicans will be in Iowa for a faith and freedom dinner that a handful of them will attend. And Donald Trump will be in Urbandale at a high school homecoming. Then on Sunday, it's the Emmys. Also, Hillary Clinton's first Sunday show appearance. She's live on Face the Nation, first time since 2011. She's done a Sunday show. So, Phil, with all of that, who you got?
Summer is over. The political party is officially underway. I'm going to give you 2 quick ones, Mark. Mackinac Island Republican Leadership Conference, because read BloombergPolitics.com. Steve Yacino's got a great piece out about why Michigan matters a week after the SEC primary for establishment candidates. You got a bunch of folks going up there and talking. The other one is Sunday. Hillary Clinton very notably does not like Sunday shows, does not necessarily agree to a lot of live interviews. Both are happening on Sunday. I think you got to watch that. What do you think?
I agree. The other thing I'd look at is the Democrats in New Hampshire. Hillary Clinton needs a face-to-face with Bernie Sanders where she whoops him. In Iowa, she made her joke about her emails. Let's see how she does head-to-head with Sanders in that obviously vital state for both of them. All right, coming up, Bernie Sanders is blank and Hillary Clinton is blank. My day with Bernie Sanders and about 1,000 of his supporters when we come back. And then later in the show, my interview with Senator Sanders about the budget and his appearance on the new issue of Time magazine. Bernie Sanders held a rare fundraiser today here in Manhattan in a Times Square theater. We'll show you our interview with Senator Sanders in just a minute. But first, here's how the event went down, starting with the passions of his supporters. We asked them to tell us the difference between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. Finish this sentence, fill in the blanks. Bernie is A, Hillary is B.
I think Bernie is a champion for the people. I think Hillary is a professional politician.
Bernie is for the people and Hillary is for the corporation.
Bernie is the best candidate for president. Hillary is not.
Bernie is the best.
And Hillary is?
Bernie's progressive and Hillary's conservative.
Bernie is a compassionate man. Hillary, she's okay.
Bernie is real and Hillary has turned out to be a big phony, and I don't respect her any longer.
Is the cash bar open right now?
Yes, it is.
How's business been so far?
Not too bad for noon.
Fill in the blank here. Bernie is A, Hillary is B.
Bernie is very refreshing, and I like a lot of his ideas. And Hillary is just... she hasn't really done anything for me, in the past year or so.
Bernie is the type of elected official that we need to run this country because he connects absolutely with working people. And quite frankly, Hillary Clinton is a corporate Democrat.
Bernie is not funded by huge corporations and billionaires. Hillary is.
Yeah, what's your answer?
He seems more honest than Hillary. She doesn't seem very honest.
Bernie is for the people. And Hillary, well, she's more typical, let's just say.
I think Bernie is genuine. Hillary, I think, is cautious and measured. And I say that as somebody who's cautious and measured. Bernie is sincere, honest, classy, a gentleman, educated, has manners. He's the type of human being that I want to represent me and my country to the world.
What's up, New York?
He's coming on with us. They're coming on with us.
Now we're going to find a man who carries that change, who's been carrying that change for decades. Ladies and gentlemen, Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Bernie.
When we talk about the economy, let's talk about income and wealth inequality. Let's put it on the table. And let's ask this country, let's ask the people in this country whether they think it is moral, whether they think it is right that the top 0.1% own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. And by the way, when we talk about Wall Street, you capsulized it very well. Welcome to the revolution. Thank you all very much.
Bernie is honest. Bernie works for the people.
He speaks about issues that are affecting a majority of the American people right now.
Before he declared, right, I thought, fabulous. A woman coming in. And then the more I listened to Hillary, I was going, oh, I'm not going to vote gender. I want to vote character. And then when Bernie announced, I was like, yes!
Those were Bernie Sanders supporters across. Hillary Clinton has her own supporters. When we come back, our conversation with Bernie Sanders after this word from our sponsors. After his fundraiser in Midtown Manhattan today, we sat down with Senator Bernie Sanders to talk about one topic right up his alley, the economy. I started out by asking him what role Wall Street would play in a Sanders administration. You mentioned Wall Street in your speech today, and Wall Street got booed. I'm wondering what, for you, the proper role of Wall Street is in our society.
Very different role. We need a financial system in which banks are making affordable loans to small and medium-sized businesses where they're part of the productive economy, helping us create jobs. What Wall Street essentially is a world unto itself, which has its own goals, coming up with incredibly complicated financial tools, and their job is to make a handful of people much wealthier. I think when you have so much concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few, I honestly believe that we should do what Teddy Roosevelt would have done. That's, you got to break them up.
Would the Dow go up in the Sanders administration?
I think when you have, yeah, it matters to me, but I think when you have a productive economy where small and medium-sized businesses are making profits, where people are working, yeah, I think the Dow will do just fine.
Okay. I want to ask you about some macroeconomic things. You've got some candidates talking about 4% growth. GDP is up a little bit, but under Sanders' administration, again, what would you aspire to for GDP?
Yeah, 4% growth. Well, you know, I think what we need, it's you can't pick a number to it. But what I believe is if we invest in rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, we've got a $1 trillion bill that would create up to 13 million jobs. If we have a financial system that makes loans affordable to small and medium-sized businesses, I think we can substantially reduce unemployment today. We've got to also focus on youth unemployment, which I mentioned is just off of the charts. So my job is to, as president, is to create as many jobs as we can, and that's what we're about.
So if you did that, if you were elected and you passed the infrastructure you're talking about, education, all the things you're talking about, what would GDP be like? What would your goal be? What's reasonable for America?
What's reasonable for America is the substantially lower real unemployment in America and raise wages for people. That is what my focus is.
You want to spend a lot more. You want to raise taxes on some people. I'm interested in what you want to cut. What are the big items in the federal budget currently you'd like to cut?
Look, the truth is there is, as my conservative friends point out, a lot of waste in federal government, and we can run a much more efficient government. I find it interesting that the only major federal agency that has not been able to audit itself or have an independent audit is the Department of Defense. And what I can tell you is that virtually every major defense contractor has either reached settlement with the United States government because of allegations of fraud or in fact have been convicted of fraud. You have massive cost overruns. So one area that I think we could take a hard look at is the defense budget to make it a much more efficient operation than it is.
Are there any specific current weapons programs you'd like to eliminate or scale back?
Not at this, well, there are, but I can't.
Can you name one today?
Can I name? There are a variety of weapons systems that are designed to fight the Cold War. I think we spend too much money on nuclear weapons, for example. I do not believe that we need all of the aircraft carriers that some are suggesting.
What about the bases in Europe? Do you think we need as many bases and troops in Europe
as
we have today?
That's a good point. At a time when we have countries around the world and in Europe that are in many ways have a stronger middle class than we do, I think it is important to review the degree to which we have to defend countries whose middle class is stronger than ours.
Are there any specific bases overseas or in the U.S. that you'd like to see closed?
It's a good question. I can't give you a specific answer at this point.
Okay. Beyond the Pentagon, where I know you've just talked about maybe some cuts, are there any domestic programs of significant size that you'd like to see cut?
I think we have got to end subsidizing corporate agriculture, for example. That is an area that we will take.
Any specific sectors you would point out to say that's dairy, sugar?
Well, dairy, most of the way I would look at it is if you're into large corporate farming, you really do not need subsidies from the federal government. I am a supporter of family farms, not just dairy in my own state of Vermont, but I would like to see a strengthened and resilient family farm situation in America where people can maintain their family farms.
Under the 8 years of a Sanders administration, what would happen to the national debt? Would you aspire to lower it?
Sure. And you are looking, as you probably know, at one of the major deficit hawks in the United States Congress. The estimate is that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan will end up costing us somewhere between $4 and $6 trillion. I voted against those wars. I voted against the Medicare Part D prescription drug program written by the pharmaceutical industry. And also I have voted against many of the tax breaks that Bush and Obama have allowed the wealthy to enjoy. Add all that together, I am a deficit hawk. So the question is, yes, the national debt of $18 trillion is a serious problem. The question is, you do not do as the Republicans want to do, and that is move toward a balanced budget on the backs of the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor. You do ask the wealthiest people in this country to start paying their fair share of taxes. You do not go to war without paying for it.
Again, notion of being a deficit hawk, I understand what you're saying. I know you want to raise additional revenue, but you also want to spend a lot more. I know the Journal did a story that you dispute the specifics of, but there's no doubt you're for increased spending in a lot of areas, increased revenue in some areas. But yes. Would you in your first budget, for instance, submit a balanced budget?
No. You could not do that. But let me just say a few things. And the Wall Street Journal was dead wrong on a number of points that they were making. When you talk, they suggested I think I'm spending $18 trillion over a 10-year period. 15 of that was on healthcare. What they forgot to say is that when we move toward a national healthcare program, the kind of program that exists in every other major country on earth, the cost per capita on healthcare would go significantly down. So yes, taxes would go up, but you would not have to pay private health insurance as an individual or as a business.
You say you're a deficit hawk, but then you just said...
No, I made the...
But you said you're a deficit hawk, but then you said, of course you wouldn't submit a balanced budget.
No, what I said is, compared to my Republican friends who talk a whole lot about the deficit, who then go to war and don't pay for it, give huge tax breaks to billionaires, don't pay for it or offset it. Yes, I am a deficit hawk.
I'm asking you about your view of the importance as a deficit hawk of, say you were president for 8 years, would you aspire to, year by year, bring down the deficit?
It depends on the economic situation. I think the deficit is an important issue, but I'll tell you what I think is a more important issue. What is more important is creating millions of jobs that our people need and rebuilding our infrastructure, making public colleges and universities tuition free, making sure that we do not continue to have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth. Those issues, in fact, are more important to me than the deficit, but the deficit is important.
Okay. Again, you talked about cutting defense, and you talked about cutting some corporate welfare or subsidies.
And I think there's a lot of waste in the agricultural department.
Is there anything specific you can point to there?
Well, we are subsidizing large corporate farming in general, and I don't think that large corporate corporations need our support.
All right, I want to finish asking you about some funner stuff. We talked a lot about policy. I did enough policy for you, right? All right, cover of Time magazine. Your first time on the cover.
Yes.
I know every time I like to get a sense of whether you can actually get excited. Is this exciting to you?
Yeah.
Being on the cover of Time? Did you read Time as a kid?
Yeah, it was around me, and it was, we saw it, of course.
Yeah, so that's pretty good. Yeah. What else has happened lately that's been exciting?
What's happened is that we have really had some great meetings in South Carolina, in Iowa, other locations around the country. Just saw the meeting that we had today. I think what we are seeing is a great deal of enthusiasm and energy for a campaign designed to transform the way we do economics and politics in America.
When this started, you had a bunch of people working for you. You knew them all. You probably interviewed them all. I bet you now have people working on this campaign you never met, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What's that feel like?
Well, it's the way it is. One of the problems, and it's a very good problem to have, is that as our support multiplies, and as we have, hundreds of thousands of volunteers out there, we need a political infrastructure, an organizational capability that can mobilize those folks in an effective way. And that means hiring a lot of people. So we got a lot of people in Iowa, we got a lot of people in New Hampshire, we're hiring people in South Carolina, and we're going to be hiring people for Super Tuesday states as well.
What are the odds you're the Democratic nominee?
Getting better every day.
Okay. Last question. I interviewed a lot of people out front, people coming to your fundraiser day, and asked them, said, you're here for supporting Bernie Sanders, you don't support Hillary Clinton. Complete this sentence, fill in the blanks. Bernie is blank, Hillary is blank. How would you complete that?
Bernie has, throughout his political career, stood up and fought for working families and has been prepared to take on the wealthiest people in this country and the most powerful special interests. I'll let Hillary Clinton fill in the blank for herself.
All right. You should watch what your supporters said. Their answers were pretty interesting. Okay. I think you might have briefed them all before they walked in because they were right on message. Senator, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
The senator's staff clarified after the interview that he misspoke. He did vote for the war in Afghanistan, but he's criticized it since then as it's dragged on. Our thanks to Senator Sanders, and we'll be right back. Phil, we failed to mention the most important thing this weekend, which is the Ohio State game. Who are they playing?
3:30, Northern Illinois, a powerhouse MAC school.
All right, and as you saw there on Monday, our guest will be Donald Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. He'll be here in studio. That's Monday on With All Due Respect. Until then, for Phil Mattingly and for me, thanks for watching. Sayonara.